books with Shadowfang Keep and Dead Mines. So first dungeon we're going to hit on is Abyssal Maw. Abyssal Maw is a 5-player dungeon. It's located, like I said earlier, in the sunken city of Vashir. The entrance into Abyssal Maw is in the sunken city. It's actually a giant vortex in the center of the zone. Getting near the vortex will actually pull you down into the elemental plane of water. From there, you can have access to the 2 separate Abyssal Maw dungeons that we're going to have. Now, there's a lot of cool story behind these dungeons. Like they're located in the dungeon floor in essence because they're in Vashir, but the actual dungeons themselves are in the elemental plane of water. There are these ancient temples that were created by Titans for water elementals. That's what they've always been there for. But since the advent of the Cataclysm, Naga, I've heard about this stuff, moved in, and basically there's a lot of conflict happening here, and this is what players are going to have to play through. They're going to find out some new storylines about some Naga involvement with Deathwing and the Cataclysm, and I just really think it's going to be a cool place. It's definitely a mix-up, something that we'd never done before, this kind of concept of a dungeon that's underwater. We've got windows on the edges of the dungeon that actually, when you look out of them, you actually look out into the water from outside. So you might be in the dungeon, and you look out to the wall on your right, and you see creatures swimming by, and you're going to see, we're doing these really, really awesome new water effects for the game. I think you guys were able to see them in the WoW art panel yesterday. Those same water effects we're going to end up using here in this dungeon. So I just really think it's going to give players kind of a cool, unique new experience for something that they haven't necessarily done before. And it just plays up really nice, fits in really well with Cataclysm overall. So here you've got to look at the layout of the concept here for Abyssal Maw. It's non-linear, so you come in, you can choose to go right or left. You've got a couple boss rooms on either side. That's an elevator shaft in the center there from that piece of concept art you guys saw a little earlier. Going up this elevator takes you up to the top floor, where you end up fighting a final boss up there at the top. So there's a little bit of choice here. Players can choose which side they want to go, which boss they want to fight in which order, but in general, they're always going to end up in the same place. Now, this is an early dungeon. This is a 78 to 82. So this is one of the first dungeons you'll be seeing in the expansion. Here's a couple pieces of just amazing concept art for this stuff. This is a look at one of the boss rooms from the inside, looking out onto the water. You can see it's got this really unique new architecture style that we haven't used before. It's basically, where would you imagine that water elementals live? This would be that place. This is a boss room up on the top floor. And then here's a shot of that, what I was talking about, where we've got windows on the side of the dungeon that actually look out into the ocean. So it really gives the dungeon an open feel. You never really feel too enclosed. You always feel like you can just reach out and touch it. It's right there. So now we've got a little preview of some video of what this will actually look like for you guys. Just a teaser. Okay, from there we'll move on to Old Doom and the Halls of Origination. So Halls of Origination is one of 2 Old Doom dungeons that we'll be delivering to you guys with Cataclysm. The other dungeon is actually the Lost City of Tol'vir, which is actually going to be an exterior dungeon. Halls of Origination is an interior dungeon. Now, the name might bring back Halls of Stone. You know, I think you guys might be familiar with that stuff, Halls of Lightning from Northrend. And now, the concept of continuing that here is because this is a place that was built by the Titans, so we just thought it really fits. Basically, you're inside of an ancient temple. It's got a very kind of, it's WoW's take on what an Egyptian kind of temple would feel like. We didn't want to go with this straight Egypt style. We really wanted to put our twist on, you know, what we think that would feel like in the world of Warcraft, something very different. Another dungeon here, this one's non-linear also. You come in, you've got a choice of a couple different paths you can take. You don't always have to play the dungeon in the same way. It might feel different every time you get here. I think that's important, something a little different. So you know, it's Titan Dungeon. Obviously, Bran's got to be here. I mean, where else would he be, right? So you're going to definitely interact with Bran in this dungeon through a series of quests. Maybe a little less text this time. You won't have to wait so long. We'll see. We'll see what we can do. So here's a look at the layout. We looked at this one a little earlier. This is that same dungeon. This is Halls of Origination. So a lot of bosses here. We're planning 6 or 7 bosses total for the dungeon. It's just one of those we really felt like we wanted to spend that extra time on it. It's got an amazing art style. You're going to get to take a look at it in a minute. We've got a preview. So here's a look at some concept art of kind of what we're pitching. A little bit of our take on like what a Sphinx would look like from our style. And here's a shot of one of the halls. So there's a lot of this actually is an interesting piece because there's a lot of rumors going around. There's been ancient stories of the Halls of Origination and that it actually, people don't really know what it is. There's been rumors that it houses a secret weapon, this giant weapon that the Alliance wants, the Horde wants, Twilight's Hammer and Deathwing want to get a hold of it. And it's, you can kind of get a little hint of that here. It looks like there's some energy cables, like there's something going on here. It's not just some ancient stone building. There's definitely something else lurking here. A couple more concept pieces. And then we've got a real quick preview of some of what the inside of this is going to look like art-wise. Yep. So all of these dungeons are still work in progress. Obviously, none of the art is final, but they're getting there. So we really wanted to take, I know the shots are short, but we really just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a feel of what they're going to feel like when you get in. So next up, Blackrock Caverns. So Blackrock obviously has a ton of story with it, and it gave us a chance to reinvent a fan favorite. We knew people love Blackrock Spire, but we didn't want to go back and just take Spire and necessarily turn it into one of our heroics. We really thought, here, let's go ahead and just go full bore. We want to create a whole new dungeon for it. And there's a lot of story that goes with this. So this new instance that's in Blackrock is actually occupied by Twilight's Hammer. It's actually kind of like an off-site base for Deathwing. In the actual dungeon, he's actually bored a hole from the bottom of Blackrock Mountain all the way to Grim Batal. It's kind of like an underground freeway. And basically, he uses that to transport supplies back and forth between Twilight's Hammer and Grim Batal, trying to basically extend the reach of Twilight Hammer anywhere that he can get in Azeroth. And that storyline really plays up here. So this is another one of our earlier dungeons. So you're definitely going to get a chance to play through this and experience it through quest lines as well as just from the concept of doing the dungeon. You're going to find out, why is Twilight's Hammer here? What exactly do they want with Blackrock Spire? Is there something else that they're kind of trying to get out of this that's for Deathwing? Are we going to find that out? And those are the kind of things you're going to find out through the storyline here. And who knows? Maybe there's more than one beast. We're not really sure. We'll have to find out. So here's a look at the layout for Blackrock Caverns. So this is a linear dungeon. This is an example of a dungeon. There's one way to work your way through it, but we have a lot of cool spots in here that we want players to hit. We've got a couple different points of interest for players to see, and it's also got a very, very specific feel to it. We really wanted to keep that feel of Blackrock Spire where there's lava flowing. When you look out into the hallways, there's bridges and caves, and it just looks like it goes on forever. It's really tall. Super, super dark brick, dark metal. That look and style is something we wanted to keep, but we also wanted to bring back some new things. Give people something new to play through and something new to see, and you're definitely going to see that with the Twilight Hammer influence here. It definitely feels different. So we've got a video preview of Blackrock Caverns. Let's take a look at it. Right on. Okay, so now I'm going to hand this back over to Scott, and he's going to give you guys a few sneak peeks of some new raids, some new content, and some really, really nice surprises.
Thanks, Corey. So let's talk about Icecrown Raid in 3.3 for a little bit. So, of course, it'll be a 10 and 25 player raid. It'll have 31 epic. What? Did Ghostcrawler get a hold of this slide?
Who let Ghostcrawler on this thing?
Oh, okay. 12 epic bosses. We all get more sleep this way. It's for the best. So again, as Corey mentioned earlier, the waypoints from Old War proved popular, and we will use them again here because Icecrown Citadel is ginormous. Of course, you've been waiting to, we've had a lot of characters that you've seen, you've been waiting to fight. Syndragosa, you will fight her here. And of course, the Lich King's up at the top of Icecrown. You'll finally get to fight him. So I'll take you through briefly floor by floor. This is the very first floor. Something you've seen a little bit is the spire with the frozen throne on top actually runs through the entire dungeon. So when you first roll into Icecrown Citadel, you will see the bottom of the frozen throne, that huge spire. Past that, there's 2 bosses there. You go up to the second floor. Here on the second floor, you'll see at the bottom there's this little graphic, again, designer art, for an airship. So you'll board the airship. At this point, if you're Alliance, you'll be boarding on an airship with Varian Wrynn. If you're Horde, you'll be boarding on one with Saurfang the Elder. And you're actually going to race the other faction on their airship up to the top of Icecrown. Now, what this involves, it's a few of your raid members will get on cannons trying to destroy the other ship. And then there will actually be boarders coming from the other ship launching themselves via rocket packs onto your ship. You'll be fending them off. And then you have to board their ship with rocket packs to take out the mages. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Really looking forward to that. So once you get to the third floor, then it gets really interesting because you'll have 3 different wings you can go to. There's bosses in all 3 wings. You have to defeat all 3 wings, all the bosses within there, first so you can get to the final floor. We've got a Plagueworks wing, we've got a Crimson Blood wing, and we've also got the wing with Syndragosa. So if you get to the final, up the very top, here's where you get to the Frozen Throne. You'll fight Arthas. We're already working on this fight. We've got a huge amount of really cool things planned for you. Parts of this platform will actually break off, and you might fall, and if you fall, it's bad. Yeah, so really crazy stuff planned out for this one, and again, this will all be patch 3.3. Now, this is the raid. Something we did in patch 3.2, which we had the Argent Coliseum, the Crusaders Coliseum. We didn't just give you a raid, we gave you a dungeon. Well, we're going to give you dungeons here, too. Oh. Here's awesome concept art of this, by the way. You can see the spire coming up through the middle. That's what the entrance looks like. Oh, and a video preview. I skipped ahead. So as I was saying, Icecrown Dungeons, and that is not a mistake, it is S. There are 3 separate wings with 8 bosses. So we have a huge amount of content for people who love doing 5-player content. The one cool thing about it is there's actually an epic quest line that will take you from one dungeon wing to the next. As a matter of fact, you can't do the second and third wings until you've actually done them in order. That way you get the full story experience as you go through.